So the question is, do you think they are going to impeach Donald Trump? It's a question of the day. It's a thought of the day. Do you think they're going to impeach Donald Trump? So that's the game. That's what we're talking about right now. Do you think they're going to impeach Donald Trump? So the answer to the question is, of course, no. How you doing, Kelly? How you doing, Kay? Hope everything is well with you guys. Kay, we still are rejoicing you guys coming down all the way from Georgia. The weather was hot here yesterday. It's cold today. How you doing, Brother Abraham? Hope everything's well. Okay, so here's one of these rare car cams that I do nothing but politics. It's rare that I do it, but I want to do it. But sometimes it needs to be done. So let's talk about the impeachment. House is going to vote to impeach Donald Trump. It's not, if you watch the news, you would think that they are voting to impeach him. And that's just the way the Democrats do it on the TV networks. And when it's, and I distinguish the both, I'm not being negative toward one or the other. I'm just distinguishing the two parties. As you know, CNN and MSNBC and the rest of them, they are Democratic stations. Fox News is a Republican conservative news outlet. So, the House is going to vote to move forward with the process. But if you watch CNN and MSNBC, you would think that the way that they're purporting it is if Donald Trump got impeached. And they do that to muddy the water even more so that they can dismantle the Republican Party. That's why they do that. If you watch Fox News, they're like, hurry up with the process so we can get to the Senate, which is primarily a strong Republican Senate, so we can wash our hands of this and get on with the election. That's all that they're doing now. Yeah, man, I hope you feel better. Really hope you feel better. The news networks really think that a lot of people, they don't give you credit for having a little bit of common sense, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people know very little about politics. They'll go around on New York streets, metropolitan streets and cities, and they'll ask people like, who was the 16th president? And people say, I don't know. And you can ask people, who was the first president? And they'll say Abraham Lincoln. They won't say George Washington. And I'm sure that they only show the people that gave the wrong. But it is, a lot of American people know very little about the political process. And so the way the political process works is and that's one thing that makes, if it's working correctly, it's one thing that makes America run to have those checks and balances. So what it does is it So you got the Senate bill and the House bill. If the Senate comes up with a bill or a law, we call it a bill, but it's a law, or policy. The other house. So you got uh, congressional people. They said they're part of Congress. But whether you're in the House or whether you're in the Senate, you are a part of Congress. You are a Congress person. It just means, what title do you have? Are you a senator or are you a representative? So that's how that works. But nonetheless, we have the Democrats won the House, and the Senate maintained control. The Republicans maintain control over the Senate. And whenever that happens, you're not going to get anywhere. Everything's a formality. So it's obviously that Nancy Pelosi and the House does not like the president. Now, Nancy Pelosi is there because she's a Democrat, and the Democrats run the House. Therefore, the strong majority is going to be somebody that is a Democrat whom the Democrats elect among themselves to be the strong, or the House Speaker, or not the House Speaker, but the Speaker of the House. I guess that's the way you can put it. So right now, Nancy Pelosi is running everything. She's running, and that's why she does not like the president. It's obviously she doesn't like him. And it's obviously that he doesn't like her. And it has nothing to do with the fact that you had a Republican president with a Democratic House. Now that the House is going to pass it, because they're voting on it now, I believe, it's going to go to the Senate. Now, the Senate is run by a guy who is a Republican out of Lexington, Kentucky, named Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is a strong Republican conservative. He is a pro-Republican at all costs. So therefore, he has a great big following because he's been there for a long time. And because of his following, no Republican senator is going to turn against the party. Nobody's going to turn against their party. Right now, this is so divided. And this is why you see what we see today, is because America right now is divided. And either you are a strong conservative Republican or you're a Democrat. The Democrats are losing, I would say, footing. They're losing their positional power. They've always have taken certain groups of people for granted, that they will always vote Republican no matter what. They will always vote Democratic no matter what. And usually those are the minority class of people that Democrats kind of take advantage of, or take them lightly, to the point that they promise but don't do. It's just the way the Democrat Party has already done. It's always done its minority constituents. The Republicans, it all depends on the flow in which way they go. If the conservative Baptists or the conservative Christians get behind a strong Republican candidate, You're going to see certain laws that will come out that are very conservative. And what I mean by conservative, I'll put it out there like this. There will be no same-sex marriage. There will, abortions, laws become very, anti-abortion laws become very strong. And that's just the way the Conservative Party is. You have to decide which one you are. I've made a decision not to get involved politically from a voting standpoint. However, I do follow politics. I do follow. And the reason why I follow politics, it's always been a favorite subject of mine. I've taught public policy as an adjunct professor. I used to teach at Berry University. I taught at two other universities, two online universities, Phoenix and Everest Institute. Everest is, I don't think they're still in existence anymore. They got bought out by, I forgot, somebody. But public policy was something that I liked. And to just show how policy is being made, who makes policy. And the media makes policy based upon its influence. That's what they do. Now, so let's get back into this impeachment process and why I say it's a formality. Because the House, which is full of Democrats, is going to vote to move forward. Once it gets to the Senate, it's going to be in the hands of Mitch McConnell out of Lexington, Kentucky, who is a strong conservative Republican. They're not going to impeach their candidate. And here's why they're not going to impeach their candidate. Here's where the Democrats did not look at the timeline of things. The Republicans are not going to impeach their president because they don't have a candidate that can run for president and win in 2020. They don't have a candidate. Now, some people say, well, why don't they have a candidate? Because the president is the incumbent, and historically, the president, no president has ever ran for office and then come back and not run a second term without, unless they died in office or something like that. But to the best of my recollection, no president has ever been in office and decided not to run a second term. That being the case, the Republicans are stuck with Donald Trump. And the Republicans' philosophy from a conservative perspective is always this. If they got a Republican office, a bad Republican is better than no Republican at all. That's been their philosophy. That's just been the way that they are. Democrats are, because everything is diplomacy, they're usually not loyal to each other. Not at all. And somebody might say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, case in point. You've got, at one time, in the neighborhood of about 25 Democrats who were running for the presidential office to be the nominee for the Democratic Party. 25 at one time. That's a lot. I can't recall when I've ever seen that many running to be the party nominee. Haven't seen it on the Republican or the Democratic side. Not to see that many people, and that is a lot of people. Okay. You said Maxine Waters just went ham. Are you saying home or ham? I'll clarify that, Andre. Maxine Waters just went ham. This whole impeachment thing is hilarious to watch. It is hilarious because let me tell you why it's hilarious. I watched a little bit of it on my lunch break. So when a person gets up and they got a D for Democrat by their name, you already knew the way that they were talking. Then the next person, they went Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. And you can just tell the way people were going to vote. I mean, it's so obvious. I'm like, why even go through the process? Somebody just needs to call the vote. Now, once it gets over to the Senate, because it's going to pass, how big this trial is, it all depends how Mitch O'Connell wants to do it, because you have to anticipate they are going to discredit every witness that the House used to support their impeachment process. You see, the way politicians work, they could look at something half empty, and they can also look at something half full. They could look at something half empty and say, "We're in trouble." I mean, they really scream. And then, depending on who it is, it could be at the same level, and they say, "Oh, this is great. It's half full." So, the testimonies the Democrats used that they were halfway good, they're going to make them the best thing since sliced bread. But the Republicans are going to use those same testimonies, and they're going to, what they're going to do is they're going to ask these people questions, and they're going to contradict themselves. They're going to contradict themselves because when you up there, you know, with the motive, you barely can give the same statement twice. So they're not going to give the same exact statement twice. And what they're going to do, the Republicans are going to say, "Do you realize this is perjury?" You're going to hear the word perjury more out of this process from the Senate. Mark my words. Do you know what perjury is? And you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that all through this process. And I'm telling you that I'm not a prophet. I'm not a prophet. I'm just telling you what word you're going to hear the most. And that's because they're going to take these people's statements and try to turn it around. And then by the time Fox News gets a hold of it, this person committed perjury, then the CNN is going to say, "No, they said this, and let's analyze this word." Were they saying the same thing? I'm having fun with this conversation. You know what? I'm going to pick it back up. I don't know when, but I'm going to have to run. But I think I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to stay on politics this week. We'll talk soon. Peace.